Hey, it's Jess from YogiTriathlete. We have spent years coaching and competing in endurance sports, and now we're bringing you our newest offering, Endurance Squad, training with a holistic edge created by athletes for athletes. This isn't just another training platform. It's a dynamic community built on performance, longevity, and well-being. Whether you're a triathlete, runner, thru hiker, or simply training for life, we bring cutting-edge endurance training, mindset practices, and expert-led recovery tools together in one place. With new training plans and classes added each month, plus monthly group coaching calls with our master coach, BJ, you'll always have the support you need, because endurance isn't just about miles, it's about how you show up, body and mind. Ready to train differently? Join us at yogitriathlete.com/squad.
You know, when I had my burnout in 2010, I was trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
And remember that, we're all going to have training stress. That's a part of it. We need to stress the body in order to get stronger, in order to train ourselves to go long. This is what we do as endurance athletes. But training stress is only effective if the body is allowed to absorb it. Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Yogi Triathlete podcast. I'm here with BJ, our co-founder of Yogi Triathlete, co-founder of Endurance Squad, our master coach. I'm Jess. I am also those things, co-founder, and I'm the mindset coach for Yogi Triathlete. We bring you guys over 40 years of experience, which is really crazy. And I don't love that number because it makes me feel really old, but I think we're doing pretty good because we meditate, which actually has been shown to reverse the aging process, which was my hook, to meditate. And I think we've done a really good job at overcoming, because we've both experienced it, overcoming our topic today, which is burnout. And that has everything to do with, longevity, but longevity with wellness. And that is a core belief of Yogi Triathlete, is like, we want our athletes to, endurance sports is a lifestyle sport. It's lifestyle, right? And we want, and our intention is, I should say, we intend with every conversation and every workout and every piece of feedback and how we are assisting our athletes in pivoting into this lifestyle that not only gives them longevity in sport, but also wellness. But I think burnout is real, and it's something we're going to talk about today. What do you think, Beej? Welcome. Yeah. Hi.
Hey. Hey, and what an intro. I am here. I'm happy to be here. And you can have it all. You're talking about this path that we've walked over 40 years. You can have it all. You can have a connection with the sport, you can have a connection with performance, and you can have a connection with goals. But that also opens up the opportunity to navigating all of that with ease and flow in life. It doesn't mean you have to be all in for getting the goal, and you don't have to be all out and detached for not reaching the goal. So there's this, I guess, a synergy of working towards where you want to go, but with more ease and calm.
So I know historically you have had some athletes who have come to Yogi Triathlete because they are burned out, because they have been just pushed it too hard. So I guess let's talk first about, because I want to talk about maybe like a case study, like obviously we're not going to talk about somebody in particular, but yes, just a general story of something that you've experienced in your coaching about an athlete coming with burnout. So I want to get to that at some point, but I want to talk about, why do athletes burn out? And we put a post out on this last week on Instagram and Facebook. So you can go and check that out. It's just a carousel post of reasons why, athletes burn out. And I think one thing that happens is like, we just get disconnected from the purpose of what we're doing and why we're doing it. I guess in mainstream, you would say it's your why. Disconnected from purpose enjoy. Like it just becomes mechanical. It's just like getting through the motions. So, to get on to the next thing, which is such a conditioning, I think, of our society and how we live. What else do you think brings in burnout?
Lack of direction, lack of, what is the purpose behind a workout? I've been seeing that a lot recently. Like, what's the purpose behind the workout? Not just doing the thing because you're doing it. When I had my burnout in 2010, I was trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. I was leading up really strong into my training cycle for years. And then I decided to do more of the same thing. And there wasn't an adjustment of like intensity or frequency of workouts. It was just do more of the same thing. And I found myself at the other end burnt out, and I had to step back a little bit. But there was no there was no like real purpose behind individual key sessions, I would say. You sort of like lump everything together. More is better.
Yeah. And I think that's perhaps an experience we want to dive into. And I don't want to commit to talking to too much, like being like, oh, we're going to talk about this and talk about this. Cause then the podcast ends and you're like, oh my God, we never talked about that thing. Which actually I think leads me to, I was just out on a run and I was thinking about this, burnout and why does it happen? And it came to me, I think this is something to consider, that when we say we're going to do something, right? When we say we're going to do something and we don't do it, right? Let's say we are flexing that quitting muscle, right? Whether that's something within our everyday life or it's, I'm going to do this race and then you don't do the training. I mean, let's face it, sometimes the training doesn't get done. You just start, like, we know this, right? If you quit, it's easier to keep quitting. It's as we say we're going to do something and don't do it, we create that neural pathway of not completing what we say we're going to do. How I'm relating this to burnout is that creates a lot of stress. That is a really stressful thing because there's this part of you that has this inspiration and this desire, like, I want to do this thing, but maybe the will isn't strong enough, or maybe the why or the purpose isn't strong enough, and it's not strong enough to drive you into the action. And so then it doesn't happen. And then you create this pattern in life where you say you're going to do something and then you don't do it. Like we always say, let your yes be yes, which has been ingrained in us by our own teacher. And I think that we would be silly to dismiss that this is not a valid entryway into burnout, because it does create a lot of stress. And so stress is one of the reasons why athletes burn out, work stress, family stress, marriage stress, stress of a consistent pattern of not letting your yes be yes. So cortisol levels are going to rise. And stress is, I did a whole week on stress in the 8-week mindset course. I think that course is a foundation of mindset. It's something that I think every coach and every athlete should take. So go check it out and maybe get it for yourself. We priced it at $47. It's super, super cheap. If that is a financial stretch for you, please let us know, because I would never want that to be a barrier. But stress, I go into it in detail in that week. And when I was a massage therapist and really learning about stress, I used to say to people, like, it's not an if it will kill you, it's a when. And so that will absolutely lead to burnout, but not just in your sport. And so when I look at like what happened to you is like you didn't, and actually take us through those 2 weeks, because you didn't recover from, you set out to do a workout, you failed. You didn't recover properly. Like you had already been kind of overtraining, and then you went out to nail the workout the next week. And then we have a video of that. I think it's on our YouTube channel. Yeah. Take us through that. Cause I think that was a little ego.
Yeah. I wanted to hit a specific workout that, I'm you can probably relate to this, or a lot of you can, where you hear about a workout from somebody that was very successful at it. And so you go and do the workout, right? And Lionel Sanders or somebody doing the workout. You're like, I can do that. David Goggins. It wasn't those people, but it was a workout, and I loved the workout, but it was a brutal workout. Not brutal. It was a challenging workout. But as Jess alluded to, I didn't recover well from the failing of the workout and then went right back out to go do it again and pushed and grinded my way through it. And this video that we captured is me in our basement in Boulder, and I'm just can't even breathe. I can't like catch a full breath. So I had certainly taxed myself beyond what I was capable of at that time. And that just was one workout. Think about all the workouts of the week that led to that weekend workout of constant fatigue and stress on the body. And so I had to learn the hard way, and going into an Ironman overcooked is really not a good recipe. Well, for the race, but also for your health and wellness. So I was completely burnt from that session that week. And then we moved back to Rhode Island shortly thereafter because I stopped doing Ironman for 2 years.
Yeah,
Ironman distance races for 2 years. Yeah,
Ironman distance, not triathlon in general. But I think that's what makes you, a master coach, is that you definitely have you've experienced it all, and you weren't coaching then, but you were preparing yourself to be a master coach for sure. But yeah, so we're looking at stress. We're looking at not recovering well, poor energy management, nutrition, sleep, mindfulness. Like you weren't mindful after that workout. It was ego driven. It was, I have to do this to show that I can, do the race.
So we got to tell them the workout because they're probably like, well, what's this workout?
Well, I'm glad we're getting to it. So so we're letting our yes be yes with this story.
I'll just tell the workout's quick. It's in Boulder. You start at Coot Lake and you bike out to the store on Hygiene, and you go from the store on Hygiene west into the foothills, and you go up the canyon. Left-hand canyon. You go up Left-hand Canyon all the way up to Ward. And you hammer, so zone 3, zone 4, you go all the way up. You descend all the way back down to the 36, and then you go back up to Jamestown, right? Again, hard, Jamestown. Then you descend right back down to the 36, and then you TT home from the 36 to where we lived, which was South Boulder. So if you guys know South Boulder, we're talking the Southern Sun, just past the Southern Sun. And then that wasn't the end of the workout. Then you go off and you run an hour at race pace, which I was trying to hit 7:20 to 7:30 at that time. I remember. So also this is at elevation. Yeah, we've been there for 8 years. I'm acclimated, but you're still at elevation, pushing super hard. So that was the workout. Really hot day leading into Coeur d'Alene. So it was mid-June.
I really hope somebody in Boulder is listening to this and they go out and do this workout, but they do it recovered. They do it after some good nutrition. A little bit better too. But it's funny because we started this like, here's some about this workout, but that was a great workout.
Yeah. And
I think, another thing to just speak of, we mentioned mindfulness, because mindfulness really, it helps you slow down. It helps you regulate that ego. And so the ego, we hear this all the time. Put your ego aside. Leave your ego at home. Check it at the door. Don't do those things. Bring it along with you. You need it. It's your fuel. Your ego carries your will. You need your ego. What we need to do is train it to realize that it's not our ruler. It is absolutely the greatest teammate you can have. You need it with you. And in fact, you have no choice. There's no way you can check it at the door. But mindfulness, which is essentially just practicing doing what you're doing while you're doing it. BJ's drinking water right now. Like, feel the water, go down into your body. Like, just be mindful. It's not woo-woo. It's not soft. It is really a hardcore mind training technique that you can bring into any point in your day. But when we're not being mindful and the ego is our ruler and we're caught up in the overactivity and pressure of our external world, we misalign ourselves with ourselves. And we completely lose that connection to our inner compass that's saying, you really need a rest day, or you really need to just text your coach and say, I'm halfway through my bike and, I'm anxious, I'm stressed, I didn't sleep well, or this is going on at work, and have that communication, slowing down so that you can get back into alignment with yourself, because sometimes you're not going to be able to get a hold of your coach, or maybe you don't have that type of coaching relationship where you can do those things. You're going to need to regulate yourself, and having that relationship with your inner compass is massive. And that is going to be a first line defense against burnout.
I just was making a note. You talked about the stress, right? The stress of this. A big component that I see, which ties into this access to a coach, is how much time you think you have to train and the time that you're actually training. I see it come as a big stressor. At first, you believe you have this pie in the sky time to train. And after a few weeks, reality sets in, and where you thought you had 16 hours to train, because we're always on the high side, realistically, you have 6 to 8. That's what you're getting done. And so there's angst and stress around trying to fit the workouts in late at night, early in the morning after doing a late night workout, missing a workout, and then you're not getting anything done. So then you double it up on the next day. This causes a lot of stress for the athlete. So this is, again, why why we went this route with YogiTriathlete, this access to the coach for the one-on-one, VIP coaching, is you have access to communicate with your coach and say, I'm stressed. Like this is not working out. I'm feeling like I'm trying to cram all these things into my day and I'm not getting anything done of quality. So that takes a lot of courage to do that, because as athletes, we don't want to say we can't do something. We don't have the time to do, right? And to share with your coach, like, I don't have the time for this. It's tough. I understand that concept, but that is an opportunity to take the power back into what you can control. And I would rather see an athlete excel at 6 to 8 hours a week than get really stressed about trying to fit in 14 to 16 because they heard it from somebody or they've done it in the past. Life is constantly changing. It's ebbing and flowing. So in these new moments of possible change, you can wrap your arms around this new version of how your training goes. And if you always have more hours to train by chance, you can always message your coach and say, well, serve something up for me for 2 hours. I have the afternoon wide open from work. But I think that stress of trying to cram in more time than we actually have is not doing us any good. It's actually doing us a disservice.
Yeah, that creates a lot of stress because, again, it's like an unrealistic desire. You want it, but you don't have it. And Clark is sound asleep, snoring next to me. It's the cutest thing. It's that creates a lot of stress. And oh man, I definitely think it's not, this about me too. Like, there's been times, like even recently, where you're like, just turn the power down, like just turn the watts down or the effort down, the percentage down and I was like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the whole thing. And I come up against that too. And I'm very conscious that I'm doing that and I'm choosing it. And I could be putting myself in a hole, but I do counteract it, I think, pretty well. I'm not saying there's an excuse, like I get to do that and nobody else gets to do that, because I'm taking a withdrawal from the bank when I'm not relenting, because that's a part of my personality and my work here. However, meditation is a very parasympathetic, nurturing practice that I do. And that really helps me recover from those times where that ego, I'm totally on board with the ego. And I'm like, no way, I'm going 100%. I'm not dropping it down. Like, you see me do that.
Yeah. There's also a time and a place.
Yeah. I mean, if I had like pain, I wouldn't do that.
Or if you're an athlete that doesn't tend to push to that level, an athlete that constantly just stays in the safe zone, it's constantly like, it's not working. Like, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. Like, there's an element of like, yeah, it's time to sort of explore the waters over there. So there's a time and a place for things is what I want to just include there. But yes, for someone like, well, seasoned like you and I are, I think we have the awareness that we're going to live to fight another day tomorrow. And if we didn't get that VO2 effort fully today, in a few days, we're going to be challenged with another, whether it's swimming and we're going to rise to the occasion because we know that it's just not one workout. It's not one hero workout. It's stacked, consistent training over and over and over again, not having too much joy or despair about one session. It's about feeling it, not attaching to it, and accepting like, okay, well, that was good. Okay, move on to the next thing because there's more sessions coming. And the ego is like, well, wait a minute. What about the session we did, 2 weeks ago? We were crushing it. Well, that was 2 weeks ago and that's already in the past. Back to mindfulness, like paying attention to what you're doing while you're doing it really beams you into the moment. And I would say it solidifies or strengthens your decision so that in the aftermath of the decision, you have a firmness into, okay, I'm 95% sure that was the right decision at the time. If you're not present for that decision and you're constantly moving on habit, then you can look back at that and say, well, I'm only like 40 or 50% sure. And actually that leads me to what you used to ask me after every race was, do you feel like you could have gone harder? And I was always like, I can go harder. And that was a long time I would say that. Now I know I'm giving it my all. And I think that comes with the mindfulness that you were just talking about. Like I pay attention more so than ever in my training and races. I was actually just thinking about the run that I went on. Like I can't imagine
today.
Yeah. Running with music. Like I love to be a witness to the story that is coming up. Like, what are the thoughts? What am I focused on? What am I experiencing now? So that's, mindfulness in a nutshell is just pay attention to what you're doing. So back to the topic here of burnout.
Yeah, I want to move into like, what are the solutions for burnout? I mean, I think people can probably predict what we're going to talk about, but you actually touched upon something there, like the athlete that's always kind of staying in the safe zone. Again, a different entryway into burnout because, boy, would that make me lose my joy. That would absolutely be a joyless pursuit for me to always kind of stay in that safe zone because it's riding the edge and sometimes it's going over the edge that creates that next level of fitness, mental strength and resilience. And that to me, that's joy. That's excitement, is that it's that contrast, And so, yeah, I mean, I think that there's some unassuming ways to enter into burnout because when you're always staying in the safe zone, you start to lose that joy. I've seen this with athletes that I've worked with. There's what comes up is there's this level of fatigue. Oh, I was just kind of tired. And you're looking at the training and you're like, there's really no reason why you should be tired. But I think there's this unconscious stress that's not getting checked. And I do believe that we come here to grow and expand, and that doesn't happen in the safe zone. And, I just did a post on Instagram today about yoga being a fierce mind training practice. It requires you to look in the mirror and rise up, and you can't not see those unconscious things, those sponsoring thoughts, the thought behind the thought that's actually driving the train and creating your reality. So I think there's some interesting ways into burnout that maybe aren't often talked about. I think that's one of them, is staying in that safe zone. Because to me, that would really suck my joy big. So let's talk about, actually, why don't we kick it off with the other thing that I wanted to say is like, can you give us maybe just a broad storyline of an athlete you've coached that has come with burnout and how that, and I know that some have come with burnout and it's just too hard of a pattern maybe to shift and kind of do a little bit of shifting. But if you had like a real success story, and again, keep this,
I think it's a hard
general and private for the person.
Yeah. Yes, I have had athletes, come from that realm of burnout, but still having that connection to endurance sports. There's something there. So there's something unfulfilled or something that is pulling them into it. But the way that it was done before brought them to a place of unhappiness or a loss of themselves, of who they thought they were. Mm. So I would say in general, most of it is surrounding, data and information, having to do particular hard sessions frequently and really tuning into the watch and what the numbers display and moving along in the training cycle based on all these numbers. Now, I'm not saying numbers are bad. That's not what I'm saying. But the relationship to that information is what we want to get to the root of. So usually when an athlete comes to me like that, we take the data down way low into the priority list. And it becomes more about what they're feeling. And so at first, this is a new thing because they are conditioned and have experienced very regimented stuff in the past, training sessions in the past. So my work as the coach is to kind of bridge the gap between some sort of structure, but also some sort of leeway in the way that they can relate to the session. So, for example, whereas you would go out and do a run hard at, a heart rate of 155 to 165, if I were to give a workout to an athlete like that, I would say, go for a strong effort. Scale of 1 to 10, go for a 7 or 8, and see how that feels. And back off if it becomes too hard. And if it feels good, hold on to it and see how long you can stay there. And then that works with the athlete to still have them give the intensity, because that's what we crave that. Especially in running, we get that instant feedback. Mm-hmm. But it also gives them permission to sort of work into the session on their own. Like they've got some power in this workout. They can back off after 20 minutes or they can continue on to 30. There's that leeway, there's that buffer zone. Neither one is wrong or right. But what it does is it gives the athlete, again, that ability to be a participant, an active participant in the session. And I think that is a lot of times what's missing. For athletes.
Sounds like it would help them like align back with themselves. Cause we can get lost in that stuff.
And to no fault of us, or, we're just providing the environment. Like the athlete begins to really love that and then realize, I don't want to race. I don't want to race anymore. Great. I'm glad I can help. Glad we can help with that. And then they pursue something else. But at least they've understood that it's not all about the confined walls, the borders. There's some space. And another word I like to use a lot with those athletes is imagination. Keep using your imagination. Keep creating up different routes you can go on, different places you can go and train. And that really feeds their soul, which has been longing for that for a long time. That answer the question?
Yeah. I love that. And it kind of leads into like these solutions for burnout. And I would say, like if you are an athlete that's burned out, or you feel like you're going there, or you've done it in the past and you don't want to go there again, these solutions are not just reactions, right? Like if you are in a burnout situation, what we're going to talk about next can assist you in coming back into yourself. But also, if they're just a part of your day, like maybe you won't have to hit that burnout anymore. Maybe you don't have to lose the joy, that there's a different way. We don't have to like fall into the valley to rise back up again. Life's going to give you plenty of pushes off the peak into the valley. But wow, when that happens, isn't it great when we have a relationship with our lifestyle sport that is, we have well-being within that. And yeah, I mean, there's times where maybe I don't feel like going out for the run, but that's where the mindfulness comes in, just like put the shoes on. I'll never forget Claire, the ITU, Claire, from Belgium.
Claire Michelle.
Yeah. Claire Michelle. She's so lovely. And when the first time we had her on the podcast years ago, she talked about that. She's like, just get your shoe, just like put your shoe on. These are professional athletes. These are the techniques they use. So anyway, when we're looking at, solutions for this, we really want to look at reconnection. Like you want to reconnect with your sport because you're not connecting if you're feeling super burnt out. So like BJ just talked about, imagination, visualization. There's so much science around visualization and journaling, have that reflection time in your journal. And sometimes people don't feel safe about journaling, or I always say like, journal like nobody's ever going to read it. And if you don't feel safe about having the journal in your home or in an open area, put it somewhere private or burn the pages.
Or leave it out and see if your dog will take out a few pages.
Yeah,
Clark has done
Clark's
before.
eaten a few. He's definitely violated our privacy and eaten a few of our journals. But, studies show that when, these types of visualization, journaling, these types of things create an intrinsic motivation, and that reduces burnout, and it actually increases longevity and well-being. So, there's great science behind this stuff. It doesn't have to be long. Like, let's say you have a breath practice in the morning that's 10 minutes. Grab your journal, set the timer for 3 minutes, scribble for 3 minutes within that 10 minutes, and breathe for 7. Like give yourself some grace. It's not about finding all this extra time. What are you doing now? Where can you find these little nuggets and space? So what about some of the practices that we offer here at YogiTriathlete, like with your athletes specifically to help? We're talking about burnout. We're talking about increased cortisol levels. We could be talking about, renal failure. I mean, we could really be talking about a lot of physiological damage that can happen. And so we want to nurture the nervous system. It's so big. We have to get out of the fight or flight and get into the parasympathetic nervous system. So what are some of your favorites for your athletes to help nurture them after, key workouts with like those spicy workouts that they've earned?
Yeah. A big one is just leave your watch at home. Leave your watch at home, go out and do a walk or a bike, or just go for a walk. Leave the watch at home is such a good one. New location. So if you're constantly doing sessions right out your front door, drive somewhere. Go drive an hour away, find a trail, find a path, meet up with a running community, and go have an experience. That's another aspect of all of this is having experiences. Sometimes it has nothing to do with training. Just go to the beach and walk barefoot in the sand and jump in the water and do that for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And then that's all you're doing for the day. It's a reset to sort of get off the pattern of the constant go. But those are a few things I like. Also community, like call up your friend, go out for a run. I think those are good.
Yeah, I mean, spending time in nature is really incredible for your nervous system because nature reflects and shows us resilience and patience and acceptance and all of these things, that these qualities, I think, that are really true to us. And it helps us relax into that. And then of course, meditation, breath work, let's just say breath work, relaxing breaths with long exhales will put that parasympathetic nervous system back into dominance. It will start to regulate yoga nidra, going to those deprivation tanks, going to a yoga class, going to a sound. Oh my God, if you've never been to like a sound healing, like a crystal bowl class, they may have to pick you up off the ground. I mean, these kinds of things, like BJ was saying, like just kind of mix it up, mix it up, go for a walk. That's such a beautiful gift. Go for a walk, go for a hike.
Have your partner drop you off somewhere and then you have to run back home. Like I started running to the gym to teach yoga. Mm-hmm. There's all these things you can do to mix it up. Understanding that the mind is like, it's seeking excitement, and I will say part of the experiencing curiosity I like to enjoy is how much I can de-excite the mind, Mm-hmm. And you too, like we've been doing this for a long time, as you said in the intro, 40 years in the sport. How do we keep going? Shudder. Well, there's different aspects of it that you can pick apart and find something to focus on. And I think de-exciting the mind is a superpower as well.
Yeah, I mean, you said it all the time. You're like, I'm training. Yeah, I'm training. You're training for Oceanside, but like you're training to pick up our dog's 40-pound dog food bag in 40 years, right? Like,
because I'll be 90 and I'll still be doing triathlon.
And we're still going to have big dogs.
I'll be winning my age group.
So yeah, nutrition too, I mean, we really are what we eat. And we're not here to tell you to eat any certain way, but what we are here to encourage is eating in a way that feels aligned for you. Whatever that is, it doesn't matter to me what you eat, but eat in a way that feels aligned. Does it feel nourishing to you? Is the food you're eating, or is the way you're eating feeling nourishing to you? Digestion is a parasympathetic process. It is rest and digest. If we're woofing down our food, if we're working and eating, if we're talking and eating, even Ayurveda would say, if we're stressed and we're eating, if we're stressed and we're cooking, like all of this is compromising our digestion, which is compromising our nutrient absorption, which is compromising our elimination, leaving undigested food in our systems, that then rots and creates an inflammatory response. So nutrition is a big one, Does it feel good? Is it nourishing? Is what you're eating nourishing? And being mindful about it, like putting your fork down and just, it's really slowing down. And we know this from endurance sports. Anybody who's an endurance athlete knows you've got to slow down to go fast. Same thing with mindfulness. Same thing with like the effect of meditation. It's like you're so much more effective and efficient throughout your day because you're making less mistakes, because you're training the mind to be focused on what you're doing.
One thing at a time.
Yeah.
Not multitasking, really cool. Monotasking.
Yeah. It's really cool. And then, and I think another one is like not rush your, like BJ's fatal mistake back in 2010 is, well, it wasn't fatal, thank God, but like his big mistake was like not trusting the adaptation process. He was so gung-ho on completing the workout and nailing the workout that you didn't rest. You didn't trust this adaptation. You thought more is better. That's not always the case. Sometimes it is the case, but it's not always the case. And so being mindful, I think, helps us understand, like you said, we're different every day, right? Like there's.
Yeah. I see this with athletes too. Like it's just, you make a decision and then you want to do that all the time.
Right.
So the mind doesn't have to think. It's just like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. But yeah, we're different every day. And that leads to the curiosity and imagination of what's possible. Tomorrow could be amazing. Mm-hmm. And so can the next day. So we want to feed that. We want to feed the possibilities, because that gets the mind out of the rut of, being burnt out. And I'm glad you mentioned nutrition too, because nutrition can really be boring. Like if you're eating the same things, you get into a rut. You mix it up. Cook with color. Somebody told us that too. Lots of color. And that can just snowball into something else, like maybe your passion for cooking or finding different foods or trying to eat something different every night. Again, these are all things that trick the mind into getting out of its pattern, out of its habit, which is obviously causing the burnout. So invigorating it with something bright, colorful, new can be helpful.
Yeah. All right. So, let us know if you want us to dig in on a topic for our next episode, but I think we're going to be coming to you guys a little more regular now. Thank you for the support. Thank you for listening. And remember that, we're all going to have training stress. That's a part of it. We need to stress the body in order to get stronger, in order to train ourselves to go long. This is what we do as endurance athletes. But training stress is only effective if the body is allowed to absorb it.
Yes.
Yes.
I agree.
All right.
Stress, rest, adapt. Our podcast with Neil Henderson from Boulder took it home on that one many, many years ago.
All right. Cool. Thanks, everyone.